Hi, and welcome to Great Data Minds Women. My name is Julie Burrows, and today I'm honored to have with me Kira Annanie. Known Kira for years now. She's an amazing data person and knows a lot about the industry, including a lot around data science and data engineering both, but definitely around machine learning, et cetera. So I'm excited to have you on with us today, Kira. Thanks for joining us, and let's get on with the questions because I want everyone to, get to know you and the community. All right, tell me about yourself. Tell everyone what you're doing now and the types of projects that you're working on.
Yeah. So I actually just started at AIM Consulting. I'm a senior manager here of data and analytics, and I'm actually really excited to be back in consulting. I was prior to this, I was at Crux. I was their manager of data engineering and data science over there. So kind of the dual role, both at Crux and in my role here. I'm really excited to be back in consulting though, because I just love the variety. I love being able to kind of work on different things, jump into different technologies, solve different business problems for companies in different industries. When it comes to data, I think that, kind of in this field, you do see a lot of the same sort of problems over and over again, but you also see a lot of kind of uniqueness, especially when you're working with a client that's maybe in one industry versus another. That can sometimes present unique challenges that are sometimes pretty interesting. And from my perspective, I mean, I like tackling data challenges, which is why I think that I'm drawn to this field. So I think it's just kind of natural that I'd like to want to kind of jump into different areas. My role here is both data science and data engineering focused. A lot of kind of the initial projects I'm kicking off have much more of a data engineering flavor to them with a data science component a little later on. So really excited to kind of be a part of some of these more like full life cycle type projects.
Great. I will tell you that you are good at consulting because I've sat in meetings with you before. So welcome back to your favorite part of the world, one side of the desk or the other. And the great news is you were on the other side of the desk with Crocs and now you're back. So I think having those on your resume is, really important these days. So tell us what your passion, how'd you get started in data? What got you hooked in?
Yeah, to be totally honest, my first job out of college was in data, and I just stayed in data. I got my undergraduate degree in economics and math, which is why I think I kind of was drawn to the more like analysis focused roles immediately out of school. And yeah, so my first job, like a decade or so ago at this point, was data science focused. We weren't calling it data science at the time. I think I would have told you it was like statistical consulting or data analytical consulting at the time. But essentially we were doing data science. We were kind of getting in there and building out a bunch of cool models and predictions and regressions and writing some fun data cleaning code and whatnot. And I've stayed because I've enjoyed I think, I kind of hit on this earlier, but I've enjoyed kind of figuring out each individual challenge. I think that, like I said before, every kind of new thing you go into, there's similar challenges, right? Everybody has data that's not clean. I promise you.
Yep.
There's no company out there that all of their data is perfect and it's all clean. So there's always kind of challenges that are the same in terms of like data cleaning, but the actual nuances of it might be very different. I might be solving it in a totally different way in one case versus another. I might be writing totally different code in one case versus another. And so those types of challenges, even though we see them again and again, are different every time. And I think that's kind of what keeps me intrigued and what keeps me involved in data is that I like taking a look at kind of all of the information and saying, this is the best way to solve this particular problem for your timeline, budget, situation, architecture, etc.
It's so funny because I say to people, I go, data is fun. And people go, what? That's just weird. It's like, no, it really actually kind of is, And I'm not even technical. I'm not in there, putting the jigsaw puzzle together. I'm seeing such great, with innovation and new solutions, the cloud, et cetera, you just are able to do things and make things happen and see results. And people are happy when they see results. And that's really what you want, is happy people. So
Yeah.
tell me some of your aha moments that you've had in your history with data.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely one aha moment was, I think in some of my early career moves, I was very, very data science focused. And in some of my later moves, I've I've been much more kind of like data analytics professional in general focused. So I'll dig into like cloud architectures or data engineering or even a bit of data governance these days. And I think the aha moment for me was that sometimes I think, at least from my perspective as like a little data scientist back in the day, you kind of think like, I have all the tools in my tool belt to do this all myself. And so the aha moment for me is that each and every one of these roles in an enterprise over a certain size adds value, and they play a part, and they're different responsibilities. They're discrete, important roles. DevOps is another one that's kind of really increasingly becoming important in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of learning about, okay, like data engineering would also tackle unclean data, for example. This is their best practices way to be able to handle that, versus how like, a data scientist for that use case would handle unclean data. I think kind of learning about how all of the pieces play together earlier in my career was definitely an aha moment for me. Coming from such like a little like analyst narrow view to kind of understanding like, this is how kind of an ideal data centric enterprise would run when it comes to kind of each of these individual roles and the important role that they play in the end product. And it's also, really huge in terms of thinking like, oh my gosh, I've been struggling with these things for all of these years. Why didn't I know, like, why didn't I know more DevOps? Now I have to go out and learn about DevOps. So definitely that's been a huge aha moment. And then I think, I always have aha moments when it comes to data science, because it feels like every other day there's advances and new ways to
know.
New algorithms. And to be honest, it's hard to keep up with it all if you're not
Yep.
specialized in a particular area. So whenever I hear about some really cool use case or some really cool, algorithm somebody's using that I haven't actually heard of before, I get really kind of excited and intrigued by that, because I think that we're kind of only scratching the surface right now in terms of, how we could be using data. And it's exciting to see people make advancements and be creative in terms of how they're using these tools in their tool belt.
I'm with you. I swear to God, daily aha moment.
Yeah.
Even when you start to put together, what data ops really means to people these days, you're like, wow, that's cool, so things are changing rapidly. Tell me about your career goal. Where do you want to be in 10 years from now? And then when you're my age?
Yeah. Oh man. So that's a difficult one, because I feel like when you're in tech, like things are going to look so different in 10 years than they are today. So any kind of prediction I think I would make, I think I'm a good enough data scientist or data professional to know that there's probably a high error here associated with this prediction. But for me personally, I think that I've worn a lot of hats over the years. I've had the data engineering hat now. I've had the data scientist hat. I've even worn a DevOps hat as it pertained to data, so more like data ops. And now I'm kind of putting on a data governance hat a little bit here and there in my current role. And I think that for me, as I start to really truly like learn about all of these different areas of data, I become increasingly a better and better, more well-rounded data professional. And I think for me, what I'd like to do is I'd like to start stepping into situations in which I can really kind of run very successful data programs and or help enterprises in a consulting basis run very successful data programs, because I'm really, with kind of all my consulting experience, I've seen a lot of what works, I've seen a lot of what does not work. And I think I'm really getting to a position where I feel like I can add a ton of value to enterprises from a consulting perspective when it comes to in-house analytic programs, and how we can use data to improve operational efficiency, how we can use data to be more competitive, increase our competitive advantage in the marketplace, how we can use data in other capacities to kind of drive ROI. That's really kind of where I think I'm headed at this point in my career.
I think I see a chief analytics officer in the future.
Well,
For Apple.
More and more companies probably need to add a chief analytics
Oh,
officer.
amen on that, sister, right?
I might be a little ahead of the times.
And don't put them under the CIO, let them have their own rank. All right, leave us with some advice for the community as people start to, enhance their careers. What do you suggest?
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing for me personally, and this is something that, I think we all struggle with to some extent, is that in this field, you just absolutely can't be afraid of the unknown. Things change too fast, and there's too many. I think if you look at, there's a diagram that is like called the big data landscape. And if you look at that, it is so big that you kind of have to zoom in to see the labels or the,
I know the diagram you're talking about.
Diagram for every little, database or ETL tool or data science platform or data governance platform out there. There's nobody who's an expert in every single one of those. You can't be. And so I think just knowing that, you're not going to know everything, and kind of being comfortable with that, right? Saying to yourself, I'm not going to know everything, but you know what? I can learn things, and I can go out and I can figure out how to use this new tool. I can put in the time. I can figure out how to code in this new language. I can, I can read a book and I can figure out how to implement a particular algorithm. Maybe if you're just starting out, it's one of the more simple ones, and you work up to kind of maybe some of the deep learning type stuff. But I think, just knowing that it's normal, and keep going, and you will get to a point where it feels comfortable to feel uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It feels
okay to fail
and normal to know that you don't know everything, and that's okay. Is essentially
how many hours do you think you spend a week just researching and reading and keeping your head out of the sand?
Yeah. That's an interesting one. I mean, I think it probably depends quite a bit. I mean, being in consulting, it depends on what client I'm working with and what they're using and what their challenges are. I'll tell you this week, I've got a client who has some master data management challenges, and I've been spending a lot of time getting up to speed on MDM platforms. And so this is an area where, I definitely wouldn't have considered myself an expert, but it's an area now that I can really speak intelligently about it, because I can list off, kind of all the major ones on the Gartner chart, and I can tell you what their major functionalities are. And, so it's kind of like, it's 1 week, like a week like this, I think that I spend, I don't know, over a day easily, over 8 hours easily, kind of looking into and getting caught up in this area. There are other weeks where I'm in the weeds writing code in platforms that I've used for over a year. And so those weeks, it's probably less. So it kind of just, for me, it's like the flavor of the day. What challenges am I trying to tackle today? And how can I become as educated as possible about how best to tackle that challenge as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I don't think people, and see if you agree with this statement, but I don't think people spend enough time educating themselves. And I don't think management spends enough time and money educating their teams.
Yeah, I mean, I think tech is such like a little bit of a special bird, in that it changes very fast as compared to kind of some other field that you could be in, right? So like, for example, if I would have gone off and become a lawyer, things change in the legal field, but they certainly don't change as fast as
No
things
kidding.
change in technology and data. And so I think it's a little bit of sometimes I think enterprises and leadership doesn't completely like fully grasp how big it is and how not everybody can know everything, and how much time and effort and energy does go into staying on top of a lot of these things. I think that, personally, as a very technical member of a team, I feel like I've excelled the best when I have somebody above me in terms of leadership who has either done it before, done some capacity of what I've done before, or at least understands it, right? Like they've done their own research and they kind of understand the field as it pertains to how fast it moves and how big it is and how hard it is to kind of stay on top of it. So I do think, I guess if I were to have to give, any other advice, it would be, now when I look for a job, that's personally what I look for in somebody that I report to, because I know that those are situations in which I thrive, situations in which my manager kind of understands what it takes to be in my shoes and knows kind of what goes into it in some capacity. So
Great.
2 pieces of advice.
Great advice. Great advice. Okay. And on a personal note, what's that on the floor behind you? It's white and turquoise.
That's a dog bed.
Okay. What kind of dog? That's what I figured it was. What kind of dog?
I actually have 2 dogs. Both of them are mixes. We rescued them. My girl is she's a senior, and she's a German Shepherd mix. So she's actually not down here because she can't do stairs anymore.
Oh.
And then my other dog, he's also a mix. I'm actually not completely sure what he is. If I had to guess, I would guess if you're familiar with like a Belgian Malinois, I would guess he's a Belgian Malinois mix.
I'll have to look that one up.
Yeah, but he has real short hair, and he'll be a year old in January. So he's a puppy, and he's a handful.
If one good thing came out of COVID is there a lot of pets were adopted. Wasn't it great?
I know. I love it. I actually like working from home and seeing people's like kids and pets and things like run along the back.
I do too. I do. And I like looking at people's background, and like, what are they doing?
I think it's great.
I know.
I learn so much more about them. I think it's cool.
I know that, I wouldn't have known you were a dog person. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, whenever I call you and I go, hey, will you present at this thing, or will you let me interview, whatever, you always say yes. And I want to thank you ever so much for helping us educate people and supporting the women in data. There's a lot of us, and good thing about it is there's a lot more of us coming on board. So thank you again for your time. And I want to thank all the listeners out there for joining us again for Meet the Community. And stay tuned. We've got more coming.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.